Welcome to Spiritual Rebirth Tarot. This is Madelyn, and I'm so happy to have you here on Astrology Friday. So every Friday, I will be having a video about the astrology for the next week. And I'll pick something that's happening in astrology to be sure and talk about. So feel free to give me recommendations or ideas in the comments for next Friday. And so this Friday we'll be talking about Mercury going retrograde on the 13th, the next week. And so the interesting thing is that Mars is already in retrograde right now. And if you've noticed that once in a while you feel a little kind of frustrated or irritated, a little bit more angry than usual, it's not just the election. It's also because Mars decided to be in retrograde during the election, which works out really great for all of us to have a little extra oomph and anger. And I was listening to Joni Patry on YouTube. I'll put a link for her on here. And because I'm really enjoying her presentation and on a lot of topics with astrology. So I was listening to her. She was saying, you know, right now we're going to have a tendency to feel a lot of anger. And that anger comes from our childhood, from our past, probably even from our future, our past lives, and our genetic code. So we need to really pay attention to things that we're angry about. So if we start feeling super angry about something, let's take a look at what that anger is, where it's coming from, and how it might be something that we need to actually address. So during this time when everyone's feeling so frustrated, pull yourself back just a little bit from all of that and take a deep breath and know that any irritation you feel, kind of dig a little deeper. And that's what the retrograde is all about, is digging deeper into your psyche and understanding yourself better. So that when the planet goes back, because it has that great opportunity of going back into direct, we are ready to move into our next level in our lives. So as Mercury, which has to do with communication, goes into retrograde this coming week, and of course we're in the shadow now, and so we'll already start to have some issues with our media. So things will start going wonky with communication. It could be media. It could be all of a sudden you say something, you're like, I never would have said that. Wow, I can't believe I said that. Pay attention to those things, because those are things that are coming up inside yourself, coming up inside yourself that you need to be paying attention to. Okay, so pay attention to those things. Pay attention to the angers that you have. So what I would like to do is pull a few cards in relation to both Mars and Mercury being in retrograde at the same time. And I want to start with the archetype. So the archetype, I'll pull a card, and I always have all of the different cards that I use listed below, so you can take a look at those. So I'm going to pull an archetype card, and then I'll take a look in the book and read a few things related to it, so we'll understand it a little better. And this will be the energies right now related to, for those watching my channel, related to this time period in astrology. Okay, so let's take a look at the astrology here. So I really recommend, if you're somebody who spends a lot of time watching tarot and things like that, spend some time in astrology as well, because it gives you a whole nother perspective, and I think they work really well together. And this deck obviously isn't a tarot deck. It's a Oracle card deck. And I think that some of the people who have been inspired to create some of the oracle decks have a lot of divine inspiration. And this one especially is from the Wild Unknown Archetypes Guidebook and Guide, and it's really an incredible learning experience for me. Okay, so let's ask for guidance here. Creator of all that is, we ask for your guidance in this today. It is done. Show us. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, wow, this is really pretty. It's the Healer, and it's the three-headed snake, or it's three snakes. So these cards kind of come from people's dreams. And here we have, you know, a dream or a perspective. It's 25, which is 7. So that, you know, moving into that higher power. There's a circle, an oval, and a teardrop there. And the energies of the darker to the lighter is really beautiful. And when we look at the snake, I'm feeling mystery, and that there are potentially 3 mysteries that will come out at this time. And it might be different for different people, but for this general reading, let's ask about those 3 mysteries. The Healer. So when we think about healing, you know, we could be healing the body. This kind of looks like a cell, sort of, you know, with a nucleus. There's some other components to this cell, but the cell with a nucleus, kind of healing at cellular level, which the theta energy can do. And just an overall, when I think of healing, I also think of like shamanism. Shamanism, you know, 100,000 years of healing. I think that we know so little about it, and we have kind of walked away from it in so many ways. And now things are starting to come back into our lives. And it could be that some of the changes that'll happen in the United States and the world in the next few months, you know, toward the end, you know, the end of this month and the end of this year, are really going to be about some of those type of things, and the changing on the cellular level. Okay, so let's look at the book 25. The Healer, the Light Worker, the Gifted, the Old Soul. Oh, fascinating. So, you know, the cool thing is that in the world today, there are a lot more light workers, people who actually are reincarnated from other planets and other places, coming to help us usher in the age of Aquarius and that new beginning. And so it says, though some claim the work of the Healer as their gift and name it as their dharma, the force of this archetype is within everyone. It is our natural inclination to remember, to return to, and to reclaim that central and eternal life force from which we so easily drift away. So that's what we were just talking about You know, we have a tendency to drift away from these gifts that we have. This, you know, so like shamanism has been around, but we've drifted away from it. But we now have the opportunity. It's not just one thing anymore. You know, we have so many things. We have all the energy healing. You know, Reiki. We have say positive things. I can change. I want to change, and bring those changes into our thought patterns to help us be healthier. We can ask the Creator to change our thoughts so that over time we will let go of the bad habits related to eating and drinking and those kind of things, to be healthier in our bodies, but then also a healthier minds. You know, today we're blessed with so many different religions and philosophies, and there's kind of something for everyone. And there's a lot of different ways that we can approach life and those kind of things. And so we're very in a really blessed time. Okay, in Sanskrit, the word avidya means forgetting, and it is said that this is the source of all suffering and disease. Forgetting. Oh, interesting. The healer's mission then becomes to move through the comfort of forgetting, through the veils of ignorance and denial, to reveal the radiance that already exists. The healer approaches this in multiple ways, from multiple angles, knowing the cycle of the healing is not linear. Okay, so that's where this snake is coming in, and these circles. You know, there's nothing linear about healing. And so many times we look at it in modern medicine, which I'm a dentist, so I certainly have spent a lot of time studying modern medicine. You know, and we take the person and we find their problem, which is the symptoms, and then we create a diagnosis, and then that diagnosis creates an etiology. So what made that happen? So how did this diagnosis occur? And then from this diagnosis and etiology, we come up with a treatment plan. And the reason why you can go to a dentist and go to 5 different dentists and get 5 different treatment plans is because the way that they are looking at the diagnosis and the etiology is the same, but they don't really talk to you about that. But there are 4 or 5 different ways to treat the same diagnosis. And so that's kind of the case with the healer, is that it isn't linear. There isn't just one path. There are multiple paths. We have the 3 heads. So we might be looking in the sense of healing at 3 heads as the physical, mental, and spiritual healing in those 3 areas. And if we only focus on one, just the physical, we won't be healing the whole person. And if we're just focusing on the mental, we won't be healing the whole person. And if we're just focusing on the spiritual, we won't be healing the whole person. So that's why if a church really focuses on the spiritual part, but they don't really have the physical component in their belief systems, they really aren't dealing with the whole person. And so I think that's a lot of what we're moving into right now. So during this time of retrogrades, you know, if these little angry moments start to come up into your head, if these glitches come in the areas of communication, think about it from more than one direction and more than one angle. So it's not just one thing that's causing that reaction or that to happen. There's a whole group of things that are happening and creating that incident. Okay, so forgetting uh, through the veils of ignorance and denial to reveal the radiance that already exists. The healer approaches this in multiple ways from multiple angles, knowing the cycle of healing is not linear. It is multi-layered and circuitous process, always leading back to its own origin, much like the Ouroboros, which is the snake that's it's actually swallowing its own tail. Now, they could have just done this as a snake swallowing its own tail, and it certainly has that feel to it. And with all the circular nature in the picture, it has that. But I think it's really cool that it has the 3 heads, because then we're really looking at it as being multifaceted. And it's not always the same thing that we're dealing with when we're working with healing. So this book also has some things on the side that are of interest. The wounded healer is not someone who was wounded and is now healed. It is someone who continues to courageously break open the self and ego as a means for deep integration. So you are the true healer not only is helping others, but is constantly working on themselves. You know, it's kind of interesting because wanting to move into healing, like I'm learning Reiki, I'm learning Theta healing, I'm learning these different forms of energy healing, as well as the physical knowledge that I already have. And as I'm trying to combine all of this together and integrate it, deep integration, and those things kind of are coming together, some people will say to me, well, as a healer can only heal what they've already healed. And that's true, but it's also not true in the sense that a healer is never done being healed. So you can't wait until you're all done and you're perfect, because you'll never be perfect. And so there comes a time when you're called and you move into this healing. So, but this also really has to do with these retrogrades. The retrogrades are about deep integration. So they really are about that, going in, digging deep. You know, Mars is saying, you know, dig deep into your feelings of frustration and anger and fighting and pushing forward no matter what. And Mercury is saying dig deep into the way you communicate and the way you relate. You know, we communicate with Facebook, we communicate with you know, Instagram, we communicate with Snapchat, and now with like TikTok is kind of like the really fun thing. So all these fun things are brought together, but yet we also still use our mouths. We still write books, and we still even, you know, write letters sometimes to our loved ones. So all these forms of communication we'll be looking at and create deep integration during this time. And then the other aspect that we can look at here, the image of the serpent is externally tied to healing and medicine, both Western and Eastern. The image of the serpent is externally tied to healing and medicine. So you know how there's a serpent even in the modern medical illustration, both Western and Eastern. And study the serpent and his power. Okay, so there's 2 different directions we could go. We can look at the 3 heads, and we can also take a look at the serpent and its power. So let's take a look at the 3 heads here of the serpent, and see what the tarot is wanting to say. So in the extended, I'll look at any zodiac signs that come up, and then also you know, like blocks that we might be facing during this time, and some of the extra things. So right now, let's take a look at the healer and the 3 heads. So we'll get 3. We'll ask for 3 cards, 1 for each head. So 1, 2, and 3. And 1 will be the physical, 2 will be the mental, and 3 will be the spiritual. And we can put Reiki energy in the deck to help us. Now this tarot deck is the Llewellyn Tarot. I have it listed down below. I really enjoy the pictures in this deck, the meanings that it brings to me. Okay, so physical. Mental. And spiritual. Okay, so we got the King of Swords for physical, the Judgment, which is the 2 card for mental. So here's the King of Swords in this deck, the Judgment is the mental, and the spiritual okay. And the underneath we have the Knight of Wands, the 8 of Wands, and the 2 of Swords. I'm going to put those with these cards. So I will have the card that came out, and then the card that was underneath to go with it. I like to do that because it's kind of like what was known and what wasn't known, what wasn't as clear for you. So the King of Swords, so physical King of Swords, I think is a great, I mean, the swords have to do with the mind, and they have to do with thinking, and they, you know, Gemini and Libra and Aquarius type energies. And yet for that to be of the body, it's kind of like finding the truth, because he's all about clarity and truth and really seeing clearly and understanding clearly. So when we're looking at the body, really knowing clearly what is going on. And a lot of times we can see that we have a cut on our hand, or we can see that we have a sore, or we can see that our numbers are off on our you know, physical list of complaints. You know, we have diabetes because our blood sugar was a certain height at the time that, you know, we were fasting. So, you know, our fasting blood sugar, excuse me. So all of that, all of those things happen to us with clarity. We kind of can see physically. Now, the thing that we're not as clear about this Knight of Wands is that we may have a lot of passion for, you know, the Knight of Wands. He runs, he runs in with passion. He's on a horse. You know, he's coming into the world with this strength, passion, direction. You can see, I mean, His clothes are like flying behind him. He's moving forward in steadiness and directness, but he doesn't see everything that's around him. So it could be that, sometimes if we're focusing just on the physical, we're not really seeing what's going on with the mental and spiritual in someone's life. So the energies of the physical are, a lot of times we can see very clearly what is wrong, what's amiss, that bone is broken on the x-ray. It's not always that clear cut, but many times it is very clear cut, very straightforward. You know what's going on. So we definitely want to look at, I believe that the King of Swords is Gemini, but let me look that up before the extended to make sure it's definitely going to be an air sign. So let me look that up right now. Okay, so we're talking about the physical. I wanted to look it up real quick. So the King of Swords is related to the air signs and also to Gemini. So we will look at Gemini in the extended. So just to summarize, for the physical aspects, we're kind of, yes, we can see a lot of things clearly. We can say, yes, I have this disease, I have that disease. The diagnosis is there, the etiology, like how it happened, is there. We know what's going on with that. But what we don't necessarily actually always see clearly is the etiology. For instance, you know that you have cancer. But what I've been learning reading these books is cancer really comes from a sense of and holding on to resentment. Now, of course, cancer is a very physical thing. It can lead to death and all of those kind of things. But cancer also, if your mind and your heart and your soul are holding on to resentment, it can. So those things we don't always see clearly. So that's what the Knight is coming in telling us at this time. Okay, so let's look at the mental. So the card that came up for the mental is the Judgment card. Now, of course, that's my favorite card because, Spiritual Rebirth Tarot. So to me, the Judgment card is all about rebirth. And so it's about, you could have a rebirth within your life, or you could have a rebirth in your future lives, in your past lives. If you believe in reincarnation, you can have a rebirth within your genetic code. And so also this particular card, when I just look at the card, to me it's kind of like this guy who's passed away is laying here and dreaming about himself in the future and who he wants to be, or himself in the past and the life that he had. He's thinking about, to me this card is thinking about all of these different things. So again, that's the thoughts in the mind. So this card also, though, really is the story of these people who found this cave. And the cave was full of warriors that were great warriors who were sleeping, and they were waiting for their country to be in need. And so he blows the horn. Can you see the horn up there that he's blowing? He blows the horn, and when he blows the horn, he wakes them up. So it's a rebirth, it's an awakening, and they come and they fight. They fight for the cause, for their country. And so I'm thinking that during this time, there's going to be a fight of the mind. So during this time, there'll be this kind of fighting of the mind, and it'll be really nice to have this group of soldiers on your side. That you're the one that blows the horn. And the underlying is communication. So we know this time of Mercury retrograde, there's going to be a lot of problems with communication. And so really stepping back, taking a look, spending your time to communicate correctly is going to be really important in this time. And this, to me, this blowing of this horn has to do with communication. And so he's communicating to them, you know, you're on my side, you're my team, and I'm waking you up to help me to succeed in this battle. So a lot of you may feel like you're in a battle right now. You may be in a battle with the world. You may be in a battle with your life, with your mind, with others, and having this great opportunity on your side is important. So I think that the message is very simple with the mental aspect, which is that communication during this time will be more difficult. We might say some things we don't mean to. And so, you know, watch your words, watch your communication. And as you do that, use it for your advantage and to help you in some way. And then on the spiritual level, we have the Hermit. I think it's a great energy to have. And so the Hermit comes to us, and that's the Virgo energy. The Hermit comes to us, and in this one, I love how it's the story of this man who basically gets shunned by the world, and so he goes and lives out in the wilderness, and anyone who does need his help is drawn to him and comes to him. It has a serpent, as we're talking about. See the serpent in here? And so we're bringing the serpent into this spiritual element, and he's a spiritual leader. And this card is probably calling to spiritual leaders to come and watch this and be a part of this time. We need to be a leader in this time of Mars and Mercury in retrograde. So we can either be part of the problem and be angry and upset and visceral about all of these things, or we can step back and be a true leader in this this healing energy that we're being asked to give. And so, you know, this healing energy that's coming into our lives. So the the Hermit, the underneath is the Two of Swords. So the thing that we're not thinking about is, you know, there's some things that we're blinded to. There's also some decisions we may have to make, some directions we may have to go. There are some things around the moon cycles may be important. The moon is going into a new moon shortly after this, so we will be having the new moon celebration that I always have every 2 weeks. We have a moon celebration, and we have a tarot reading and a time to think about the moon. But in this case, it might be that we'll be blinded to some of the things until the moon changes. It's also, there may be some decisions and directions we have to go. And it won't be that we'll just see what direction we have to go, but our spirit, that spirituality, will tell us. Our heart, our gut will guide us and direct us. So in order to exhibit to the world this leadership, this direction and spirituality that will be helping people to follow us, we will need to be listening to our heart and our soul in this process. You know, the Hermit is also asking us to spend time in meditation. So, you know, when something comes up and you're like, you know, I'm having trouble with this aspect of communication or this feeling of hatred in regard to this, know that in that situation, the Hermit is saying spend some time in contemplation, meditation, out in nature, in grounding, and those kind of things will really help your spirit to grow and thrive. So I think it's great to have looked at the 3 heads of the snake, to look at the healing. The healing both shows both in the past and in the present, in the east and the west, the healing, the snake brings forth the power of healing, and that's really significant for us. So in the extended, let's take a look at some of the blocks that we're facing, the Gemini and the Virgo, and some of those energies in our time here. Okay, so thank you so much for coming to this video and sharing in this experience. And I know that it's going to be a tough time, but a really beneficial time, as well as we're going through both of these planets in retrograde. We'll be learning a lot about ourselves, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. So thank you so much, and please subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so that you can get other things every week. We have videos coming out. This is the Astrology Friday, so you can get notified for that and when that's coming out. And then on Wednesday we have a Pick a Card Wednesday. Usually has to do with like love, romance, and things like that. And then overall, the channel Spiritual Rebirth Tarot is about finding hope and healing in our spiritual path. Okay, thank you so much for coming over this video, and I'll see you in the extended. So after the extended today, I just wanted to let you know that we went on and talked about Gemini, Libra, and Virgo as the 3 signs, and we did the blocks and those things. But a whole nother message came out with the higher self. And so if this first part of the video resonated with you, I would suggest going over to Vimeo and renting that video, because it really continues on this message in a very unique and special way. Okay, take care, and I'll see you next week.